Wow. We got a lot of people here. Holy cow. We got a lot of people here. Hello, everybody. I'm a little early. Our scheduled technical people will be here shortly. Let me see who's here. Let me scroll up to the comments. Mendit Man, hello, Luke. Dick Small Engines, hello, Dick. Jason. Simone is here. Hello, Simone. Sparky. Oh, there's Gary. Ooh, homebrew sounds good. Gary's going to be one of the panelists, so welcome. Everyone's saying hello, hello, hello. Let's see. Everyone's here. Oil Tech. Hello, Oil Tech. Rob. Hello, Rob. So let's see. Everyone's saying hello. Brother Craig is here. Hello, Craig. How are you? Jamie. Hello. Second time today. Absolutely. All right, guys. Let me explain how it works. Basically, we've done this probably 3 or 4 times so far. Generally, we have James Condon here. James is Mr. Generator. Everybody knows and loves him. He's got close to 50,000 subscribers, and he does a lot of good gen videos, and everyone just likes asking him questions. Maybe it's the aura of being able to talk to James Condon. But anyway, tonight, hi, Henry. Tonight, we are going to have 2 people up here. One we all know and love. We've known him for a while, and that is Bruce P. from Canada. Uncle Brucey, we all know Bruce. Bruce had expressed an interest in coming up on a panel to discuss generator questions and things like that. And I tried to schedule one that had, me as a moderator, and then James Condon, Bruce, and Gary, who is in the chat. Gary is literally about 40 miles north of me. When he comes up, he can introduce himself. He basically has a shop where I believe him and his family, they service and fix equipment, all kinds of stuff, small engines, power equipment, generators. I know he dabbles into electronics on the side. Guitars, obviously, his name. So it's going to be an interesting chat. I know Bruce had some interest in amplification and other things regarding generators and stuff. And Bruce and Gary had put some comments in the last chat that we had. So it's going to be interesting to have them both up here. Like I said, we're scheduled to start at 6. I told anyone if they have Klaus, thanks for showing up. I know it's late over there, buddy. I know it's late over in UK, so thank you guys for showing up over there late. If anyone does have a question, I made sure that we had this chat posted out on Bruce's. We tried to get, I think Bruce posted. I sent him the links. Jim Condon posted it on his channel, and I think Gary posted it on his. So a lot of advertisements for the stream. So like I said, if anyone does have any question, or if you just want to say hello, that's fine too. But if anyone has a question on this, this is more of a Q&A session. And the way I do my Q&A streams, it's basically trying to answer and help people out. All right. So it's okay to come in, say hi and all that. That's great. But for the most part, I'm trying to answer questions and help people with their generators. And by having Bruce and by having Gary up there, we hope to do it all. So hopefully they'll be up pretty soon. We'll see what happens. I got my tea. So I'm going to have my cup of tea, or big cup of tea. Anyway, so like I said, we got Bruce and Gary. They'll be up probably in about 15 minutes. If they decide to come on early, that's okay too. I saw Gary in the chat. If he wants to come up, I know he's getting some homebrew or whatever. That's fine too. So basically, like I said, the only people who are going to be allowed on the panel are going to be myself, and I'm the main moderator. And anyone who's one of my moderators, please feel free to snipe anyone out if they start acting crazy. But it should be good. It is 11 o'clock start. I'm just on a little early, Ronnie. No big deal. Bruce and Gary are scheduled to be on here at 11. They were sent the link to the StreamYard. So whenever I see them in the basement, I will pull them up. Again, everybody knows Bruce from Bruce's shop over there in Canada. He's actually 2 hours behind us. So it's 5:45 here on the East Coast. So that means it's 3:45 where Bruce is, and then Gary is Connecticut with me. He's up north of me. So no, there's no link, Luke. I'm not. This isn't a stream. This is about generators. It's purely a Q&A about generators. Actually, you know what? I'll put the link up now until 6 o'clock. If someone wants to say hi, I'll put the link up now until 6 o'clock. But once 6 o'clock comes, then it's going to be just about generators, because that's the way I do my Q&A sessions. I mean, we have the morning sessions and the weekend sessions where we banter and have fun and do all that, and that's great. But when I do the Q&As, it's purely about Q&As and talking about generators and technical and all that. That's the way I do it. It's just something I've done. People enjoy it. They get their questions answered. It's purely Q&A. If someone wants to come up now and say hi, no, it's okay. There's the link. But I'm saying if anyone wants to come up and say hello until 6 o'clock, you got 15 minutes. Someone wants to come up and say hi, I'll say hi. But at 6 o'clock, it's purely Q&A. No big deal. Experts only. Well, I don't know. I'm not an expert. The other two guys are. I'm not an expert. But anyway, so like I said, we will see if anyone has any questions. There were a few that people were putting in the advertisement that I did for the stream. They were putting questions, and I told them, please go to the YouTube of this that we're doing now and put the questions in the chat, because a lot of times when the questions are in the chat, I'll take those questions, we'll make them public here, and then Bruce and Gary can answer them. James Condon is, I believe he's traveling right now. I contacted him this morning. Hello, Ray. Last I noticed, Klaus, I believe so. If you noticed on the cover photo for the stream, I had a picture of a big Tesla coil where you can see all that big stuff. But anyway, Dick, you're always great with the moderation, Dick, so that'll be good. There's Gary right now. You ready to come up, Gary? Give me a little wave. All right, there we go. All right, guys, this is Gary. Give him 1 second. Gary, how are you doing? Now, Gary, you and I have never met in person. We've met on some streams before, but I went and I visited your website there with the stuff that you do and your family and so forth. But if you want to give the I know it's not 6 o'clock yet. We'll wait a few minutes. We'll get more people coming up. But I just want you to introduce yourself, what you do. I know you've got more subs than me. You're over 3,000. You do the small engines and things like that. And I know you do a lot of things with amplifiers and stuff like that. I watch some of your videos. So if you want to give a brief intro right now, you could do it. But I'd like to do it again at 6 when everyone is here with everyone here. Oh, no sound, Gary. You got the mic on? Nothing yet.
How about now?
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
Okay.
You got a little different lighting because you're very, very dark on the screen.
Right. I'm actually going to go borrow my wife's the light. It goes in the back here. Or actually,
cool. All right.
Let's see.
We got time. Yeah.
Well, maybe it's a little. No, that's too dark. That's a bit too dark.
I know. I got to get one of those ring lights that you put in front of you.
That's what she has. One of those lights that goes in the back here. Oh, it seems like I get a little bit there. I'll grab it here in a sec for 6 o'clock. No problem. But just figured I figured I'd sign on a little bit early to do some testing here.
Oh yeah. But like I said, why don't you explain who you are and basically where you are? I know you're about 30, 40 miles north of me, but I looked at your website and it looks like you do a little bit of everything. And I believe it's with your family, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So the home business is called S&G Small Engine Repair. And that's my side of the business, basically. Even though my channel doesn't match that, we actually have a separate channel for S&G Small Engine Repair. So S&G stands for Susan and Gary. Okay. We started that back in 2017. And but my YouTube channel, this YouTube channel I've had for quite a number of years and taken some time to build it up. It's kind of it's a mishmash of everything, from generators to circuit board repair to building a very, very large keezer down in the basement to all kinds of different stuff. It's a lot of my personal projects. I mean, my day job, I'm a supply chain professional, so I remote work for a company up in upstate New York. But as you said, I'm not that far from you. I'm just north of Waterbury, Connecticut.
Yeah, about 40 miles. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I mean, I'd like to dabble in tinker and do a lot of stuff that way. But a lot like with James. I actually just had a chance to talk with James quite a bit in the last couple weeks leading up to Christmas, and he created his channel basically for the same reason as me. You're looking for information. You don't know. You're trying to find as much detail as possible because you want to be able to do it yourself. And if there's not enough information out there, well, if you take some time to figure it out and do it yourself, then try to document as much as you can. Um, my videos tend to be less is more. Tend to be a little bit more abbreviated. I really love watching James's videos because he just goes step by step and
Oh yeah, everything.
very involved.
Yeah.
Very involved. I can appreciate that. I'm a detail oriented person by nature, but it's just great to be able to see that.
It's amazing how you said you're in supply chain and you dabble, whereas James is in IT and he dabbles. And I asked him one time because I've known Jim now probably 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And when I first talked to him, I said, Jim, how'd you get into this stuff? He goes, well, I think it was a generator on his RV. And he started watching YouTube, and there was a guy over in Great Britain or UK who he started watching that did a lot of electronic Q&A stuff on his videos, and Jim just like binge watched him and started getting into it. And I'll be honest, now I consider Jim one of the predominant, if not just small engine, but definitely small generator guys. I mean, he's mostly addressed every issue that I could even think of, and now he's getting into high pot mega things like that, all the different testing. And
The
I mean,
more
for an
advanced
IT
stuff.
guy, I'm impressed. I really am.
I am very much too, and I've only discovered James just recently. I probably within the last year, to be honest. And he's just a wealth of knowledge, and it's always interesting. How our professional backgrounds sort of mirror, like every guy's got to have a hobby, right?
Sure.
For me, it's either been home brewing or it's been music. Or working on small engine. I've been doing that since I was a kid with my father and grandfather. We always had stuff around, and just to be able to to see it. We live in a world now where everything's so easy accessible on YouTube, and the community has been very supportive and great on here, just to be able to answer questions. And then a lot of times with the viewers too, if someone leaves a comment on my channel, like, hey, you did this, or you put heated seats in your car, or how did you do this, like, Lord, how come this happened, and can you clarify something that wasn't in the video? And I try to follow up on those as much as you can, but sometimes they get pretty numerous.
Oh yeah. Now you've got over 3,000 subs. Do you find that you're getting a lot more comments to your videos, or what do you think?
I think, yeah, there's definitely been a lot more comments in probably in the last year. But this past year I was able to finally monetize it. You have to reach a certain amount of subscribers and whatnot.
And viewing hours, yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, viewing hours. It takes a long time, and I've had my channel up since, I want to say, 2012, maybe 2000.
Wow.
It's been a long time. Around, and it started right around the time. So up here in Connecticut, we have that Hurricane Irene, and that's that wacky snowstorm in October. And that was right around the time. I'm like, I've always been into generators and electricity as a kid, but generators are kind of like the mismatch of the two things I really enjoy outside of the professional job: gas engines and electricity. And I had two 7,000-watt generators for my grandfather that he got. They weren't working, and made one good running one. But I'm like, Gramps, what do you want to do? You want to go and see if we can get the second one running? He's like, you can have it. And I sat down and a lot of smokestack.com, Harry down Florida.
Oh yeah. Oh, I used to be into hit and miss. I used to hit and miss and throttle governed and all that. So I'm very familiar with Harry Matthews and Smokestack and all that.
Yeah, Harry's been a great supporter. I mean, I joined Smokestack back in 2011, very much for the same reason that many do. Looking for information. Looking for something. And I know you can't see it. I'll get the light, and just working on the little regulators. How do they work? And actually, the schematics that I got for a lot of the generators was from another gentleman, older gentleman, a retired electrical engineer. He helped me draw out the schematics for a lot of them.
Wait, not Ed Stoller.
No, I actually don't remember his name. It's been.
Do you know Ed though? Do you know Ed from up north?
Ed up in Maine?
No, Ed is I believe he's up like toward the Kent area. But Ed, he was the one who demystified the potting on Tecumseh transistorized ignitions
Ah,
and came up with, he was on Smokestack a bunch, but also, he had his own website where he would sell, transistorized ignitions to run off old Tecumseh engines because you
yep.
couldn't get the coils anymore and all that. So
Not
he
run off.
came up with his own little thing. But again, you'd see him on Smokestack, you'd see him on all the different channels, and just interesting how the people got around,
Yeah, and I forget the gentleman. Probably have to look in my old messages. I may still actually have it, but he wanted to be. He wasn't really into. He really wasn't into being, public. And this is actually my first public showing on my, personal channel, even though I've showed myself on our business channel. But he was like, hey, here's the schematics. Use them. You've been posting quite a bit on there, and if there's, really appreciate all the help and the information that you've posted. And it was it was a very good uh, conversation to have with them. But as time went on, a lot of these boards have different revisions. So
Hold on, Brucey. I see you. All right, we got Mr. Bruce in the basement. So without any further ado, let me give me a wave, Bruce. Just make sure it's you. There we go. All right, here we go. The man, the myth, the legend. Bruce, how you doing, buddy?
Good.
Good to have you. Thank you for showing up. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm shyer than you'd think.
I was talking to Jim Condon this morning.
Oh, yeah.
Guess he's flying or he's coming back from a trip or something. I don't know. It's
yeah,
work or holiday, whatever. But he wanted to be here, but I know he was traveling. So
Well,
at least you had made the statement a while back when we were talking in the chat the last time, and Gary had mentioned things about amplification, stuff like that. And you said, it'd be fun to have him up on the stream. So here we are.
here we are.
give me 1 sec, guys. I'm gonna go get the light here. So I'm not so
worries.
dark here. Give me about 2 minutes. I'll be right back.
Yeah, we still got a few minutes. Yep.
Right on. Nice meeting you. I thought, bass guitarist, you'd have hair down to here, kind of like Chicanic's husband.
I am not. I have 9 bass guitars sitting right on the side of me, and so many different amplifiers. But I haven't played out in a number of years. Happens when you get married.
Yeah.
But I still will always play. I play with my veterinarian and my mortgage guy. He's our drummer, and the veterinarian's our guitar player. We play out, for fun, and that's really what it's about. I used to play out professionally. I get paid to do it. A lot of the cover bands, but Connecticut's kind of like it's a state where cover bands go to die. But that's
well, you play at Toad's Place and then you go to die.
I've played Toad's Place. I've played a couple places around, and like I said, it's fun. But you get to a point, you don't want to be lifting a 110-pound 410-inch speaker cabinet and all that stuff. You get there for like 8:30, so 8 o'clock. You set up for 9:30, 10 o'clock. You play till 2 o'clock in the morning, and then you got to pack up, wait for the bar to close down, get paid. By the time you finally get in the car and you're heading home, it's like
watch it, Luke. It's not 6 o'clock yet.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's a long day.
I can't imagine.
Just like we used to say when we were younger too. Who has a van? You're driving.
Yeah.
I'm the one who has the trailer. So.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Go get that light. Give me 1 second.
Right.
So you need, if you're going to do it again, you need some roadies.
Oh, yeah.
Or groupies that are, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the chicks go for the bass player, right?
No. Don't say that too loud. My wife is in the I'll be right back, guys.
Yep.
You got any generators you're working on, Bruce? Anything coming down?
Nothing. All I got is a weed whacker on the floor of the garage that's waiting for some love. That's it. I've only had one snow thrower in, and I think that video is already up, and it's been real quiet, which is fine with me.
You got a fan, Bruce.
Oh, right on. Oh, my God.
You got stars here.
Yeah.
Anyway, everybody loves Bruce. But anyway, like I said, the last thing, this is about the 4th time I've done it. I'm the host, and when I do a Q&A, it's more about the Q&A. It's about the questions, the technical things, and trying to help people out. And I see before the stream, about a half hour before we were starting, a lot of my friends and people are coming in, and they're, hey, how you doing? Yeah, I love you, blah, 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 blah. This stream, I run a Q&A stream as a pure Q&A stream. And I know some people are coming over from Jim's parts and your parts, Bruce, and Gary, some of your guys. And some people have emailed me privately, said, oh, I want to ask a question. I said, put it in the chat. You put it in the chat, I'll put it on screen. We can answer it. I mean, Brucey, you were talking about amplification, stuff like that. I had a guy email me today asking about the low idle setting. What powers the low idle setting on a generator, things like that. So that's what I want to talk about. I want to get people a little bit more literate on home generators and things like that. So, like I said, if it's now just about 6, we've got about a minute to go. But like I said, anyone who has any kind of questions out there, I think Luke said he was wondering if he feels his coils get very hot on his generator. Is that a bad sign? I mean, things like that. These are the questions I want that we can, between the three of us, mostly you two, but between,
Well, I don't know, Ken. You're pretty good too.
Generators, though, like I said, everything I learned, I'll be honest with you, was from Jim.
Well, you know what? And I came from the world of the big boys, like the one we had downtown at work. The output breaker was 2 megawatts.
Wow.
Big.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was trying to get the email for small engine Mike because when it comes to the big generators, he's it. 805 Road King's buddy Mike.
Yeah. I watched that one. He resurrected last week. Eh?
He just put that one up today about the big Perkins diesel generator.
Yeah.
And I was watching that, and I was like, damn, I wish I had his email because, oh my God, he's like, but he's the huge, the big generators, and we're more of the small engine community here.
I am now. I'm a small generator, 6,000 watt thing.
There you go.
That and they're great. They're great things. If the questions are come. Where are the questions coming? Do I need to put up YouTube or something?
I'm looking. No. I'm looking at the chat here, and I will post it as you see it now. So if a question comes up, I'll post it. We'll try and answer it.
Hey, Luke.
There we go.
All right. So this is Luke. Luke's over in the UK. He's next to Cambridge University. He's asking if the windings get so hot. But let me ask you a question, Luke. When you say the windings get so hot, are you're putting a gun on it to check the temperature? What signifies hot to you? That's
You're a little glitchy, Ken.
Oh, am I?
Yeah.
It's probably his green screen.
Yeah, your green screen's using up too much bandwidth.
Hold on.
So can we do the virtual background? All right.
I did the virtual. I didn't have the green screen. Is that any better?
Yeah, seems to be. We'll see. We'll see in a minute. And boy, during Mick's Christmas show, I was really glitchy, but I think I brought my new laptop in from the garage, and I forgot to switch the wireless from the router out there to the router in the house.
Well, technically, I had no internet today since 2 a.m. yesterday.
About
2 hours ago.
Oh, yeah.
3 hours ago, because the router, something in the Wi-Fi router, it would see the Wi-Fi, but it said no internet.
Oh, well, yeah.
What the heck is that? So
is your service provider plug into that router, or is that router plugged into a different router?
Then the modem plugs into the router for the Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Everything recognized the Wi-Fi. It says, I see the Wi-Fi, the signal's good, but then it said no internet. And I'm like, what do you mean? If I plugged in directly, like I am now, I plug in directly for this. If I use the Wi-Fi, even though it's 3 feet away, it's not that great, even though it's close. So I may ask you guys, if I have $300-400, what kind of Wi-Fi router should I buy?
Depends on the frequency. If there's
you know what? I've had great luck with a cheap little old dirty D-Link too.
Well, we're in cheap old Falcon right now. My son bought an expensive $300-400 router, and it seems unreliable. I don't know. It's dual frequency and all that other crap. 2.5, 3.5, all different gigahertz.
Down. It doesn't have any people freeloading off you or anything like that.
No, it's secure. It's all secure and everything.
I would say, because I have the way. So the route I'm up on I have a Colonial, so the router's down on the first floor. But then I have a wireless repeater behind me for my workstation.
Right on.
So that gives me a chance I can expand the range of the Wi-Fi. But if it's 3 feet away, my guess would be that
you're almost too close.
No, not necessarily. If anything, so like you have 2.4 G and then you have 5 gigahertz. So
that's what I've got. Those two, yeah.
So 5 gigahertz is less reliable. You get more bandwidth, but the range is less. Right now, I'm running on my Mac is running on 5G, but I'm not that far from the wireless repeater behind me. If I was going to use something with a little bit longer range, you sacrifice a little bandwidth. Use 2.4.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, well, that's just like the old two-way radios. They ran at 160 megs, know, and then the new cellulars came out and they went into the gigs, and it was almost line of sight, eh?
Man, I still actually have my first cell phone. It's that's what, a little bit later. It was like this big. It was an old Sprint phone that had the black and white display. But then
my wife's was in a bag.
Yeah, my parents had the Motorola.
Motorola in
the suit in the suitcase. Yeah,
in the suitcase, and this thing it had to be like a 7-watt battery. It was heavy as hell, and I think you can still get them for like $1,400 or $1,500 on eBay because they're the old analog.
Yeah,
right. It was 400 megs analog.
Exactly.
Right. This question.
Don't forget, that was my life, right? 34 years of that.
You guys would probably know this, but I don't even know what he's talking about. The automatic transfer switch.
Okay. Yep. Should I step up?
Oh, go ahead, Bruce.
An automatic transfer switch is when your power fails from the provider. You know, we use NMAX. Everybody has something that sounds the same. And they provide us with a 220 volt circuit coming to the house, two 120 volt links. And when your power goes out, the automatic transfer switch is smart enough to switch you over to your generator and then start your generator with a good time delay. It's fast for a human, but it's a long time delay so that there's no spurious tones coming in from the field from the provider, and they make sure that your generator is running relatively clean before the transfer switch operates.
Well, let me ask you this, though. One step further. I put an automatic transfer switch on my house. My generator is only 7,500 watts. It's not going to supply everything in my house. What tells the breaker panel, oh, shut these half off? And
nothing. You can put it. You can get a secondary breaker panel that's hooked up to the automatic transfer switch.
Yep.
And 5 or 6 of the most important things in the house will be on that panel, and the other panel will be disconnected during the automatic transfer.
Because I think
I don't do it that way. I just make sure nobody turns on the dryer or the stove. That's about it.
With the automatic transfer switch going on, knowing that everything in the house may be on, it's gonna kick off, right? Basically.
Well, yeah, your generator's gonna.
Yeah.
They have. So normally, if you're going to be building, so my uncle has a 18,000 watt. Well, it's a 20,000 watt air cooled Generac generator. If it runs on propane, 18,000 if it's running on natural gas, which is what he has. There was 2 options for an automatic transfer switch. One was a 14 circuit secondary panel that would be on the side of his main panel, and then he would back up the specific circuits. And the generator was properly sized for those 14 circuits, so you couldn't overload it. It's not often that you would have every single circuit on at the same time, drawing it at close to the max. But they do have what are called load shedding automatic transfer switches, where it has, just like as Bruce had mentioned, it has critical circuits that are always the priority. That it'll shed all the other circuits. Like you can't have your central air running and your electric dryer running at the same time, for example. You choose which one is going to have priority over that, so you don't overload the generator. And that works well for if you're going to have an undersized generator. If you only have certain circuits you want to back up, but if you want to run everything, then
I would think a 20,000 would run my house.
Well, he's a subcontractor for McDonald's, so he makes all the cabinetry and a lot of the vent work. So his workshop is a separate building on his property, so that main panel runs to like 5 separate sub panels, so he needed all the double breakers to run it. And so my cousin is a general contractor, and he did it with me, and that was the only way I can get it approved with the home inspection. But I learned a lot about how they work, because the generator is massive. It's huge, but big 32 horsepower V-twin, and the big 20,000 watt head. But the transfer switch, we just did the 14 circuit, and it worked out very well. But it didn't have the load shedding capability. Normally, if the load shedding would actually go between your electric meter and your main panel, because that's how it's going to actually adjust which circuits are going to be priority and which ones it's going to shut down when you reach capacity.
Oh. Yeah,
how reliable is your supplier?
Here, it would take an EF2 tornado for the lights to go off. I used to live a little bit further south, and a squirrel as much as farted and you lost power.
That's
right.
Sort of where we are.
With us, everything's underground.
Everything's
underground, and we get about 3 power failures a year, and they're mostly under a half an hour, right?
Yeah.
Just when I'm starting to get itchy, my wife says, "Relax, it'll come back," and poof, it comes back on, you know. And
All right, Nick's got a question there.
How does the ATS kick in then if the main board to your property goes down? So you're talking about the main utility power if it goes down?
But if the main goes down,
are you talking about the breaker panel in the house, or are you talking about?
Yeah,
I'm not sure what
if
the
the electricity goes down, that's what triggers.
Right. There's a current.
ATS to go out.
It senses
Right.
there's two wires that are coming off your main lugs that are. It's feeding 100 or 240 volts from your utility at all times to the transfer switch. When it loses that feed, then it starts the countdown. It gives the generator about 30 seconds to warm up, to stabilize, and then the electric solenoid will switch. You know, it basically looks like it's two solenoids that will move the breaker down to generator and the other one back up to utility. It does it in a split second. It scares you. It scares you when the front panel's off, but it does it so quickly. It's almost like you don't even notice it.
Yeah.
Right.
My daughter bought a house, her first house, and what the guy did was, he's an HVAC guy, but most people in the trades do everything. All right, this guy put not a transfer switch. He had the outlet outside. So I went inside during the inspection. I go, "Where's the my transfer switch?" He just has that metal plate that you slide to the side. And I'm like looking at it like, that's not good. I said, you got to pick your shoes and switch it over and then start. I mean, it's good that you got to choose what you're going to power, click it off. I mean, so maybe it's
and those are actually kind of dangerous because the neutral might be tied straight through from your panel through that out to the street. And if you've got Jimmy Jack Joe Wire guy in the house and he's using black instead of white and white instead of black, he could feed 110 volts down the neutral.
Not necessarily.
So, yeah, I know.
If it's done
everything's bonded, right? Everything's supposed to be bonded, but
the main NEC code here, the neutral and the ground are bonded at the main panel only, not at a
all your sub panel, like my garage, is not bonded. Right. I did that myself. Yeah.
Right. It's not bonded. So I have the interlock. So I have 4 breakers, for a 200 amp service, and then you have your generator breaker here, and then plate slides up and down. So you can't have one going at the same time. The inlet is the neutral is bonded to ground. So what happens is that your generator, whatever you're using, has to have a floating neutral. And now I'm not that familiar with NEC code, but that's what I was told. Because if you create, a lot of times the newer portable generators have GFI breakers and GFI outlets. So if it senses that loop there, it's going to immediately trip it.
Kick. Yeah.
But on a lot of those newer generators, though, I've seen also in the manuals, they want you to take that lug on the generator and put a pole in the ground. And
that's true. It's because it'll split the current. So in the case of a lightning strike, it's going to go through because that generator has now become I believe it's called a separately derived source. If you get struck by lightning, or if you have a ground fault, it's going to go through your ground rod at your panel. But since you're powering from your generator, it also has to have a reference to ground. So there should be a low resistance between those two ground rods. So in the case of the fault, it goes through your ground rod. It doesn't go through your body.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Now,
I know there's these little generators. They actually scare me, right? Because I'm not afraid of the voltage, right? I've been hit with 500 volts because of my experience in the phone business, and I didn't do phones. I did long distance communications, starting with copper on pulse code modulation, and then I got into digital switching from Nortel, and then I got into the fiber optics because the copper couldn't keep up, and we put fiber between all the cities, and then the fiber optics started to reach out to the homes in my last little bit of my work, and now I've been retired 10 years, and I'm still on copper here, unfortunately.
Now Klaus is over there in
hey, Klaus.
Holland. No, where's Klaus? Klaus is in Danish.
Denmark.
No, Denmark. I'm sorry, Denmark. Any experience with converting a big, 6 kilowatt genset from petrol? Someone else had the question too about, I think Ed was also asking about converting from gasoline to either type of gas per se.
I can actually give you a visual example. So I'm actually a dealer for U.S. Carburation over in West Virginia, And if you look up the motor snorkel, that's one of their claim to fame. They used to have a donut-shaped venturi on the portable generators you put on top of the car, behind the carburetor and behind the air filter, and it would inject the propane or natural gas that way. But it wasn't really the most practical, because sometimes when you add that extra space, they make
more velocity.
Yeah, well, no, not even necessarily that. It's just that for a lot of generators, they make these frames so tight between the motor and the generator head that you'd actually have to cut the frame. Now they came up with the motor snorkel, where it basically replaces the gasket between your air filter and your carburetor, and it has a little probe that goes into the throat of the carburetor, and that's how it will inject propane that way.
If you want to put a link out for that, definitely throw a link out later.
I have not. I've played with vehicles that have had propane conversions, but I've never done one on a generator.
There seems to be a lot of, like, I'm surprised that, Motor Snorkel and US Carburation hasn't had more success, because they have it patented, but it seems like I run mine. I have my 7000 EXL running on its tri-fuel converter, so I can run gasoline, I can run
nice
natural gas or propane. We don't have natural gas here where I live. It costs an arm and a leg to get it off the main street. But I have a propane tank that's 100 pounds, 23 point something gallons of propane. And if we ever did lose power for that amount of time, I could just roll it out and start right up, and it stores almost indefinitely. Gasoline, if you don't treat it, it goes bad in about 30 days. So I usually don't keep any gasoline on my property unless I need it for my John Deere tractor. But
so it will run on gasoline, liquid gasoline, and then the other two dry gases, eh?
It will.
How is propane, though? My mom's got propane, like for a fireplace insert and things like that.
That's what I use.
I was thinking about using it for a generator if she ever needed it. But my question was, she's got a, probably 400-gallon tank. It's a pretty good sized tank.
Yep.
So she's not going to run out per se if there's a power.
She uses it for heat too.
Actually, the fireplace insert heats half her. She's got a ranch, like 1,000 square foot ranch. It'll heat half the house. But with a generator, though, how long does propane last? Like, for example, someone says, I'm going to convert my Generac 7500, and I got 3 gas grill tanks. Well, what's that going to last them overnight?
Depending on how much of a load. So I can give, a 20-pound barbecue grill tank is a little less than 5 gallons of propane. Now, propane also has less BTUs than gasoline. So what's going to happen is, in order to run the same wattage, and again, it depends, and I'll get to that in a minute. A typical 5 gallons, 50% load on my 7,000 watt, you probably get maybe 4 or maybe 5 hours worth at 50% load. It's not a lot.
Yeah, a gallon an hour. That's
about a gallon an hour.
Yeah, comparable to gas. Ish. Right?
Close.
Like propane has more BTUs than natural gas.
Yes, natural gas, it does have less than propane. And propane, the gaseous fuels actually run hotter if they are rich mix, when it's the opposite with gasoline.
Right.
If you're running leaner,
methane is C2H2, I believe. And propane is C3H8. So there's 8 hydrogen molecules, right?
Yep, and it also burns slightly slower. The flash point is actually slower.
Well, so it's like taking your high test fuel on your car, and you have to advance the timing ahead again 5 more degrees, because it just takes that much longer to burn, but it's hotter.
Yep, it's 105 to 110 octane usually.
Yeah,
so it's that's why it works great. In the winter, you need a really big tank. Those barbecue grill tanks in the winter.
Yeah,
not going to have enough vaporization to run that big generator. Now,
well, I worked on sites that had propane, big generator sites. Like every tower you see on every hill either has battery backup or an engine with battery backup. And the propane tanks we actually put heaters on the propane tanks because it wouldn't evaporate fast enough.
They have them for the DOT tanks, but they're
minus 27 degrees here today, guys.
Where are you located?
I am 9 hours north of Helena, Montana.
Oh my!
That's the only way I can describe it. I say, I'm north of Calgary or whatever. Calgary Flames, Edmonton Oilers, dingity doo.
What's Alex saying here? Is he debating this or what? Did the research a while back, making a generator run on liquefied petroleum. Now, question though. I mean, liquefied petroleum is your gas grill tank, right?
That's
LP?
propane. Yep.
Yeah. And the stuff on the street, natural gas, people, I think, everyone I know that has, we have it in our street. We just don't have it hooked up to the house, but it's an infinite supply. So I think that's mostly why people use it. You know?
Okay,
it's a more reliable. There's not really.
Yeah.
Well, when I turned 55, I converted, that's 11 years ago now, I converted my gas grill to propane. I'm from propane to natural gas, excuse me.
Yeah.
Wish I could speak better, eh? And I tell you, I haven't touched a propane tank in 11 years. Is that ever nice?
What did you have to do though, Bruce? Change the
it's just the orifice. All it was is just the orifice inside the barbecue is all we had to do. Yeah.
Hey guys, give me a moment. Let me actually get. I have the conversion kit. I can actually show you exactly
That'd be fun.
What's interested. And my wife said that my dinner is here, so bear with me for just a moment.
We like to eat
lunch. Have you seen that happen to me? Yeah.
Give me one.
It's real. It's not fake.
All right, Brucey. Ed's asking me. He says, "I manage a. I don't know what that is."
Oh. Yeah. Right.
What is DMS?
Digital multiplex switching. Now the 100 is just up to 100,000 lines as far as I know. But I installed them and then ended up doing maintenance on that. And they use them. The DMS 250 is probably for mobile, like these. Right. And so all the switching in our province is done with one switch in Calgary. So all the phone calls that are going on are done with one switch. Now these things peel off the data to another spot, and the data is handled in one place, and the phone calls are handled in a secondary spot.
Cool.
Pretty cool.
Ed, Gary's going to get the conversion kit. He's going to show us in a minute. He reps for the company that does it, so that'll be cool to see. I didn't realize if they make it so thin that you could just use it in place of the gasket. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, that makes way more sense.
I'm definitely looking forward to see that.
I was always worried about a backfeed, eh? Like kaboom. Back through the carburetor and into the wherever, the hood or whatever.
Well, it's like when your igniter doesn't work and you leave the gas on for 20 minutes and then you throw a match in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boom. We've had that happen a few times. Let's see. What else? Any other questions? What is this here? Hello. I accidentally stimulated my wood onto a power outlet and the white liquid from my wood. The white liquid got onto the plug and broke it. Which plug? Oh, the power outlet going into the house from the generator? I would just get a new cable assembly.
I'm not even sure if I understand the question.
Yes.
I accidentally stimulated my wood onto a power outlet
in the house. Yeah, can you be a little more specific? I'm wondering if you
the white liquid from the wood. I don't understand that. Is that an American thing?
I don't think so.
Is that like a gasohol kind of thing made out of wood?
Yeah, I don't know. If you want to clarify it, go crazy, go stupid. Please clarify. We'll try and answer it. Nikki from Ireland. Hello, Nikki. How are you?
Hey.
Glad that you're watching. I know it's late in Ireland. It's after midnight there. So thanks for staying up. Tommy and everybody's saying hello. Anybody got a question? Was he being nasty, John? I don't know. I mean, it could have been something
John.
From we don't know. I don't know, Big Bad John. Yeah. But anyway, Gary's going to get the gas transfer
and some food too.
And some food. Hey, we always eat on my channel.
Yeah.
But anyway, how was your Christmas, Bruce? Everything good?
Good. Yes, our nieces came over and they brought the little baby with them, and it was wonderful. We had a wonderful time.
That's good.
I'm glad my last drink of the night was water.
Oh boy, but
a little headache this morning.
Yeah, that's all. But yeah, I tell you, I wish we could have had James up as well, or Jim. But hey, he's traveling.
I've learned a lot from him because he's, like I work on a generator a month, and it's 90% of the time a clogged carburetor or something like that because they just sit. And once in a while, you gotta pick it up, and it might even be a little fuse or a breaker or something, but it's not very often. And he seems to be getting into the heads all the time, eh?
Well, way more. When he did the other day, he really got into it. I mean, he
did.
Thought it was going to be something crazy, and then It ended up just being that capacitor.
Capacitor was the wrong size.
Yeah, it was a 3 instead of a 33, or a 2 instead of a 22.
It was a 2 instead of a 20.
22. Yeah. So interesting, though. I mean, that's the first generator I technically fixed with his help was actually a McCulloch that needed the capacitor. I bought how do I say the farad? Is it micro? What's the farad rating?
Microfarads, yeah.
Microfarad. I bought a microfarad meter off of Amazonian, and I had him on the phone, and I tested it, and sure enough, it was about half the rating. But there's people on eBay that know that there are only certain of those microfarad ratings that are used on generators, and they boost those prices up. You know, Jim even said he went to like an electronic motor repair place, and they had capacitors $4, $5, $10. Same as that capacitor on eBay, $72, because they know you need it for a generator. There's no other real use for it, and they know to gouge you.
But you know, a 20 microfarad capacitor is the same size as a capacitor that's in points.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, but I don't think. But don't you need?
There might be they're rated by voltage, right?
Oh yeah.
So the little tiny, you can get a 20 microfarad capacitor that's quite small, but it's only rated for a very small amount of voltage.
Oh, okay.
Because the voltage will burn the paper up.
What's the most trusted? That's like saying, what's your favorite child? Most trust. I mean, I like the Generac brand. I mean, I've worked on.
I like Hondas.
Oh no, definitely the Honda EU series, the inverters. Oh my God, that's. I can't afford them, but I love them. Yeah, that's for sure.
And I've been just racking my brain all day thinking about brushless and brush generators.
Well, how about Jim when he was doing that thing? He goes, "Where's the brushes?"
Yeah.
I
don't get all wound up about it. Usually, if I take something apart, I'm a typical old-fashioned technician. I look for something that's a little cooked, dark, smells bad. You measure the primary coils. If they measure good, you just keep poking away, and then one of the bridge diodes is burned out, or and then you make sure you don't cold solder joint it when you put it back together again, and away you go.
Terry, before I start with you, there's one question. Let's see if we can answer it. Good evening. I have a non-gas Kohler 20
not gas. Yeah.
Natural gas. I'm sorry. I thought I said not gas. Natural gas. And also a Yamaha
2400. Yep.
Saying natural gas is the way to go. Well, yeah, like you said, because of the supply, you don't risk getting it cut off. Hopefully,
right?
But, but like you said, it's the least efficient of all the three fuels, right? Basically. Hold on, Gail. Let me make you big. Hold on 1 second. Let's see. Solar.
I think natural gas is the way to go.
Natural gas is definitely the way to go if you have it in your area, but propane just
look at that.
Okay, well I live in natural gas country, right? It bubbles out of the ground here.
There you go. Look at how thin that is. That is amazing.
So
it looks like a gasket. Eh?
This is the kit for. I have a whole kit here. This is for the larger, so say 12 horsepower and up. So all it basically is. So this is the side that goes to your
regulator.
This is your demand regulator.
Yep.
This is your secondary regulator.
Right. Brings it down. Yeah.
Brings it down. The
other regulator's on the tank.
So this is what they call the HPSK kit. You can either get it in 6 foot or in this case 12 foot. Your primary regulator takes it from the tank pressure and it brings it down to 11 inches of water column on this side.
And then to 4.
But that's not enough because what will happen is the generator has to be able to regulate that. So what they do is they have this as a Garrettson demand regulator. You got your little primer bulb back here.
Yep.
And this part right here is important. This is where it connects to the snorkel.
Right.
And then this is what's called your low block. This is where you set your fuel and air mixture basically.
Okay.
But to get an idea of what, instead of having that large venturi, here is the let's see. So this is what you would use to convert that Yamaha generator to, or any generator really, from gasoline to either propane, natural gas, or gasoline here.
Does it have a check valve in it?
The check valve is inside here. It's actually what's called a vacuum lock-off. So it uses the vacuum from the carburetor to open up this part inside to allow propane or natural gas to come through.
So if the engine's not running, it stops. It stops the flow.
Correct. These are preset. You cannot adjust these here. If
I
wouldn't suggest it. But this is what they do make. So the propane comes in here. I've added these extra.
Hold on.
quick disconnects basically. So because I have two generators,
Yeah.
I have the EF2000 IS.
They're like air connects, but they're propane.
Yeah, pretty much. Just to give you an idea.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to necessarily do this. You can just use flare fittings right here. But basically, this will run any engine from I think up to 22 or 24 horsepower. I'd have to look.
Wow.
But essentially, the way that these are designed is that this is very thin. It's a little bit thicker than a gasket, but this will go right into the throat of the carb. It doesn't interfere with the choke plate. It will actually crush this little probe piece here.
Wow.
And this is how it gets the propane in the vacuum of the
Slick.
What kind of price are we talking, Gary, for a kit?
So for a kit, they go for this and the snorkel, not including the
tank and primary.
This is about $167.
Oh, that's
cheap.
reasonable. Yeah.
Not bad at all. Now,
one Honda carburetor.
Yeah.
pretty much. Now that kit is about $50 or $55, but it gives you everything. The quick disconnects are a little bit more, but again, that's more for a matter of convenience. They'll give you the tape and everything like that. But where I see a lot of people mess up these tri-fuel conversions is right here, is because these are set too rich. You will burn up an engine very easily on propane or natural gas if it is not set properly.
Oh, because it's so dry.
Well, that's so dry, and that the more propane, natural gas that you're running on a gasoline engine, it's got an 8-to-1 ratio. Typically, it's meant to run on 87 octane pump gas. It burns slower, so if you feed it too much, that propane, natural gas is still burning by the time it leaves the exhaust valve. You're going to see that.
How would you know how to set it, though, Gary? Is there good instructions for that, or how is it?
They give you some pretty good instructions here. In my experience, what I usually do is I set it as lean as I can. So
lean it out till it dies, and then slowly open it.
So then, once you get it going,
Yeah.
now what'll happen is you turn it clockwise until it starts to stumble and die. Then you back it out, and then once you set it there, you're still not done. Then you have to put, they say, a quarter load on it. And it may start to stumble. Then you'll have to open it up another quarter turn. You wanted to get it to run as lean as possible.
Yeah.
And then when you've then put a half a load on it, and if it stumbles, then open it up a little bit more.
What about a varying electrical load in the house then? Does that cause problems with the generator?
No.
Oh.
It's a kind of a set it and forget it thing. So the idea is to run as lean as possible. So you get it to, once you get it to stabilize on a small load, then you increase the load. Usually a heavy resistive, like an electric heater, for example. That's how I set them. And then once you get it to run, I have a 5,000 watt electric heater that I use to test my generators and fix them. Once I know that I can handle the 5,000 watts or however the wattage that it's rated for, then I set that and then I lock it in, and then you don't touch it. That's about as optimal as you can get.
That is really affordable. I find that.
As you were saying, Gary, though, when you totally opposite from gasoline, when we turn out mixture screws, we're richening. When you turn out a gas, opening it up, you're leaning it. So it's the opposite. More fuel is lean, not rich in gas.
So the less fuel in a liquid gasoline is running lean. More fuel like for natural gas and propane is running rich, and running rich on a gaseous fuel is the same as running lean on a
liquid fuel.
Right.
Okay, I got you. Yep. Just to clarify. Okay, cool.
It's really the exhaust valves that you got to worry about.
Of course.
Well, you'll see the muffler start to glow cherry red, right?
Yeah, and that could and
it's not an old Briggs flathead.
well, Briggs flatheads. I've worked on those before.
Sure.
You have to make sure that your valves are adjusted properly. You're going to look at anywhere from 3 to 5% hotter with propane natural gas, but the hardened seats of the valves are meant to handle that change in temperature. If you don't have your valve clearances set properly, it's going to start to burn because the things expand when they get hot. And you just need to make sure.
Chris is saying that Kohlers never need valve. I don't think anything never needs a valve adjustment unless it has hydraulic lifters. But
Kohler usually has hydraulic tappets.
Yeah, so. Right.
I have a Kohler Command CV15 in my John Deere, and that's got the same size hydraulic tappets as a small block Chevy. One of the
really?
best running engines.
Interesting. Let's see what else.
Jason
said he had a question that we didn't answer. Jason, if you want to repost the question, we'll be glad to answer it for you.
Is that the white alcohol one?
I don't know. Let's see. Ronnie is asking about information. Yeah, he does have the channel. He's got over 3,000 subscribers. So it's the one word, right, Gary? Bassguitarist1985. That's the channel on YouTube.
That's right.
Okay. So one word, Bassguitarist1985, and
that's right. Yeah, it's. So I'll give a little history on my channel. So when I was a teenager and then into my college years, I was big into gaming. So the link is actually /Xboxer1985. You know, I never had a chance to change the moniker. I can change the name, but I couldn't change the link. Thus, that's why it is. So I changed it to Bassguitarist1985 because that's how I'm known on a lot of the forums. So I try to keep it as consistent so people could actually find me.
Here's a good question about oil. Klaus is asking, when you're using natural gas or propane, what about changing the oil? Does it get polluted like you would with a gas engine with hydrocarbons and all that, right? No, right?
If anything, it runs cleaner. You can't get it to run dirty enough. The problem with liquid gasoline is all the extra additives they put in there. It literally poisons the crankcase. So if you're told to change your oil every 25 hours of operation with regular gasoline, you could, in theory, go longer on gaseous fuels. But I change. I'm just a force of habit. I change on every 25 hours. I mean, if you're running synthetic oil, you might be able to run it a little bit longer, but it's if you don't have.
But generators are a strange thing, right? You might put 2
hours. They take 5 years. You know?
Well, you might put 2 hours a year just doing your maintenance every 3 months, right?
Right.
Yeah. And then wham, you're going to put 24 times 7 for 3 weeks.
Well, that's what it comes out to. That's the exercise. Alone, you want to run, especially for the standby generators.
Right.
Standby generators they have a quiet. Generac has a quiet mode where it runs at half speed, where it warms up. It runs for about 5-10 minutes and then shuts down. Where there was a lot of earlier models that had problems with condensation building up in the crankcase, and the way that the Generac had fixed it was they changed the code in the exercise routine to run at full speed, so it gets up to operating temperature faster, longer, and it evaporates off that oil vapor that has the water inside it.
Cool. What? Maybe I'm just not in the know right now. Hemp biofuel. What is that?
I would think that would be just
Well, I've heard of they have biofuel here for like furnaces and boilers. Where it's like the green fuel they call it or whatever, made from algae.
I would think if it's a diesel fuel, it would work. I guess I don't know.
But it would have to be a diesel generator. Though. You can't put in a gas engine. Yeah. Because like I said, around here they had a problem with algae when they were using those biofuels. If it sat around a little too long, it would start to create algae, and it clogged up all the filters on all the boilers. So it was a big problem around here. Ed, thank you so much for the chat. Not necessarily.
Hey.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Definitely. Chris is saying
Ed he comments on my channel quite a bit.
Oh, does he? Good. Oh yeah. Let's see. Yamaha has an all metal engine. Honda uses plastic can. Yeah, but you know what? I think the brands. I like the Honda personally. From what I've seen in the past few years, I like the EU series of the generators from the Hondas, just because computers and stuff like that. I mean, what's your call on the inverter versus the other, Gary? Any preference on that?
If you can get an inverter generator is the way to go. And to Chris's point, that's exactly the reason why I got the EF 2000 IS Yamaha versus the Honda. The Hondas are slightly quieter, but they do have a plastic camshaft and they have a timing belt. And nothing wrong with that. I think they're great sound generators. They're about equal as far as cost, but as far as build quality, I prefer having a metal camshaft, a metal balance shaft. Everything is built, I'd rather buy once, cry once type of thing.
What size do you have with that inverter? What size is that?
So that inverter, it's an EF 2000 IS, so it's 1600 running watts and then 2000 surge watts. Now,
what do you use that for, though? I mean, I've seen people use for camping and stuff, but do you use
camper?
I can use it for the house if I wanted to. So my setup, and like I said, I live in an area where all the utilities underground now. I used to live in an area where I lose power quite often. That Hurricane Irene and that winter storm really knocked me for a loop. I was out of power for 8 days apiece and spent over $200 in gasoline.
Wow.
And, as fate would have it, I finally get my transfer switch and everything set up there. And they cut off the utility, cut all the trees back, and, it didn't lose power for very long. So over here where I am now, we're on the hospital line, so it's very unlikely that we would ever lose power for any length of time. But never say never.
Well, you might have backup in your neighborhood if you're on the hospital grid. There'll be a backup,
Right.
big thing, running the hospital and you.
Our house is.
Where are you? Oh, sorry.
I'm just north of Waterbury, Connecticut.
Oh, right. I heard you say that. Right.
So
Yeah, you're about 40 miles north of me.
Yeah, and the substation for the utility is 1,000 feet away from my house. So
Right.
it's not likely to happen. But so ideally, I have a 10 circuit transfer switch, and I got the inlet, and I have a battery bank, and there's a couple videos on my channel for that where I have 2 large boat batteries, and it goes from 12 volts to a power inverter that's 1,500 watts, and then I have the adapters to go up to the transfer switch, and that transfer switch just runs the little stuff, the lights, everything is LED in the house.
Right.
And that could run overnight and still have some power to spare, make no noise or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
The interlock has a L1430 twist lock, and like we've talked about before with the interlocks, I have electric hot water, and not my.
Yikes.
I don't like it. It's what came with the house. I
know. How long have you lived there?
Since 2016.
So you've probably already replaced the tank once.
Yeah, it had the house is about 15 years old when we got it, and it's actually the model house. It was the first house built in the neighborhood, and so you see, the dining room, it's got all the extra stuff because this was the house that was shown. But it had a 40-gallon electric hot water, 4,500 watt. It was starting to show its. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but what if you change the anodes, though? What if you change the rod every year?
Well, no one changed the anodes for 14 years.
Yeah, and the shale too. Like when I had a electric water tank out on an acreage, right, and I had to take the element out and get a long skinny spoon and try and get the shale out of the bottom of the tank. And when you're at that point, you might as well just buy a new water tank.
Buy a new one.
But I was young and I had no money, right?
Yeah, when we first got here, I flushed out the tank. You're supposed to flush out the tank once a year, and it was so rust colored. And we've had a couple water main breaks happen, and the water's brown for a while, and your hot water heater tank is the lowest point in your system, so everything's going to settle down there. But yeah, it was rusted. The glass casing was broken, so we changed it out to a 55-gallon because we like our showers, and
of course,
and it worked out at 5,500 watts. It wasn't that much different with the cost, but that's really why I needed the interlock, because I need a double pull 30 to run straight to that, and my 7,000 watt would just be able to handle that, and that's it. But I can run the interlock and the transfer switch at the same time, so I can power some circuits with the inverter and then power the electric hot water heater just with the generator. And that generator is running really, really hard to keep that hot water heater running. But like I said, if I needed to, I could. I just don't see
if you were in a long haul, you could.
I could.
You could get the family lined up and say, "Okay, we're going to turn on the hot water tank, and everybody's going to shower, and then shut her off again."
Well, that's it.
Like if you were in a Katrina situation or something like that, right?
Yeah. Here's our friend Wayne from Europe.
Hey, Wayne, how you doing, buddy?
Gentlemen, what is your consensus on purchasing a gas generator with a plastic or metal fuel tank?
I like them.
Mm-hmm.
I like the plastic. Metal's a pain in the butt, but I mean, are most of them are they still metal, or are half going to plastic? What do you see here?
It's about 50-50, I think.
50-50, yeah.
And
I'm not a metal either. And really, the metal is not so much the problem. And I do apologize, guys. I'm still eating my dinner here.
No problem.
The problem with metal is that when people leave the fuel in there, because these metal tanks are sealed inside with a coating, and it's the water. Eventually the water will get inside, and it'll find a spot where that sealer is weak or thin, and it'll start to rust. And once that happens, forget it. And gas is also slightly acidic, so it's not going to be. It's attacking the metal. You don't want to. I like plastic. If I had a chance for plastic, I would use plastic all the time. It's a lot easier to repair.
I've got an old 5,500 watt. Well, it says it's a John Deere, but it's made by not. Is it Champion? No.
Champion's a good company to work with.
Yeah.
Really
No, it's not Champion. It's an American company, and it's got a nice big plastic tank on it, which is great.
Yeah. I noticed a lot of the older Yamaha ones with those MH engines, the blue ones, they always rot at the petcock. Always.
Right.
Like saying,
what is that, eh?
Right
the lowest. Well, it's the lowest point. You get schmoo and a little bit of water, and just like like we're talking about, eh?
But the petcock for Yamaha was like $80. I was like, what? It's crazy.
Yamahas are anything Yamaha and Honda, very expensive. But one thing I liked about the Yamahas over the Hondas is that you have a separate petcock and then in a separate kill switch, where Honda builds it all into one, very similar to like the Ryobis and
or the old, right.
Yeah. JP, let me see it. I think you were asking about a Yamaha, JP, with this question. I'm trying to look back and see.
I remember the first time I did that, flashing the
here we go. It's
flashing the coils, and it worked, and I was absolutely stunned. It's years ago.
Did you do it with a drill, or what'd you do?
I used a drill. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got a Yamaha, the MZ360. Good engine.
Good engine. Yeah.
But he's saying, let me see here, losing. Let me see.
He's losing.
But it won't stay. Yeah, you lose it after a while again, eh?
But is that because of the charge coil in there, Gary, or what is it? Not keeping it, or how's he losing it?
Well, in my experience, it depends on the power head. So usually with the rotors, there are two permanent magnets that are glued inside the coils to give you that little residual magnetism.
Yeah, those are those two wires that Jim always says, "Don't break them."
Don't break them. Yeah. But basically, they're on the outer poles, and that no matter what, you'll never lose the entire residual magnetism. On the smaller generators, they're more common. On the bigger generators, so I had a 15,000 watt Generac that I had, and it didn't have that. I repaired it and I sold it. I kind of wish I kept it because it was a really cool machine. But it actually used it every time you push the ignition button, it would actually send power from the 12-volt battery on board through a very large resistor to the coil to the rotor coil to instantaneously flash it when you're cranking it, and that's what would keep the residual magnetism going for you. But if he's losing it every time,
something's not right.
6,500 watt generator.
6,500, yeah.
I would say that it might be those magnets have come off, or they messed up. But it's not like there's anything wrong with the generator. It's just more of an annoyance that it doesn't
reflash it. Yeah.
I did a really cute little 600. No, yeah. What was it? It was really small, a little tiny little Honda generator, and it was as old as time.
Oh, that 600 you did.
Yeah, the 600 watt. And it actually had an automotive style coil and ignition for the ignition, and when you pulled the rope, it generated 12 volts, which excited everything, and away it went. It was like, well, I couldn't find. I was looking for the coil or on the flywheel, and there was nothing there, and I'm kind of going nuts. And then I just had my hand on the DC breaker, and I held it in, and then away it went. And it's like, I get it now. That was a fun job. That was a really fun job.
Now, Thomas here, what are you asking about a tank coating, Thomas? Red coat, is that a tank?
Yeah, I think that's a tank coat.
Sealer. Yeah.
Okay. I have never used it.
No, I haven't used it either.
Is that right? That's interesting. You can?
I've used it in motorcycles, but never in generators.
Right. You can
usually
see that.
With generators, you could find a parts machine that has a tank.
Yeah.
I usually never get to that point. If it's that rusted, I just tell them just to replace it.
Oh yeah.
It's not worth the time unless it was for me.
Yeah, you don't want to call back on something like that.
I've done lots of Briggs & Stratton metal tank repairs with nuts and bolts and rust remover, and I attached it to the wheel of my little tractor and drove up and down the alley. Crunch. It works pretty good. But then you're dealing with right afterwards, you've got you're compromised.
factory tanks have a coating in them a lot of
Yeah,
times.
it's
When
compromised. It's
you take it off
compromised.
the factory. Just like with carburetors, you get the white crusty stuff. Yeah, you clean it all off, but you're taking off the protective skin when it's die cast, and now it's not
It
protected.
leaches the zinc out of the metal. That's what happens. That's what it's doing. It's electrolysis, really, and a chemical reaction from the fuel. I mean, the fuel that we get these days, it's mixed with that 10% of ethanol, which is fermented corn. Yeah, it's tough, especially when they get to be that at that point. It's much better just to replace it. It's not worth the time in my eyes.
Yep.
Chris is a big fan of Yamaha.
Yeah.
A man after my own heart. I love it. I'm a mere mortal. I can only own one.
Let's see what else we got here. No other questions. Any other questions, guys? Feel free. We're coming up on about.
Oh, I noticed that James had a new oscilloscope. Is that brand new? Isn't that a cute little item he's got?
Oh, he's getting high tech. He's doing high pop.
Yeah, but he's still blowing into his carburetors, man.
Installation testing. He's going all out.
That's the next investment I'd like to have is an oscilloscope with the 200 megahertz band.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good.
He needs a real load. He needs a real load bank, though. That's what he really needs.
Well, don't we all? Wouldn't that be nice? I had them at work, right? And they were, they were great, but they got a lot
for 20 grand. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the phone company had the money, right? So they would buy the very, very best that money could buy, and it was DC though. Well, it was DC and AC, but
you don't need to spend that kind of money to make a load bank, guys.
Well,
yeah. What was that thing you sent me, Gary? You sent me a link.
It's an electric garage heater. It's a 5,000 watt heater. It would normally mount on the ceiling. And they run off a 240, and it has a selection of 3,000, 4,000, or 5,000 watts. And it's a purely resistive load, and it's perfect for doing the portable generators. There's a indoor flea market just north of me here, and they had it on sale. He's like, I don't know, some guy converted over to gas, like natural gas, and he got rid of his electric one. I bought it for $60, and now normally they go for a little over $100, maybe 140 last I checked, but that's what you get. 2 of them, and you got 10,000 watts of electrical resistance. That's perfect for the portable generators. It's
Did anyone see William's question? He had a question, but I can't find him.
I don't know. The comments have been pretty steady here.
Yeah, I haven't seen William. If you want to repost a question, I'm sure someone said Donnie Boy did a video, but if you repost it, William, we'll try and get there. Wayne again. What do we got? Do you think oil gets acidic? Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I change it at the end of the season so fresh stuff is in there sitting all winter, so you don't have all the byproducts in there.
Yeah, right. And I can't tell you how many times I've worked on a couple commercial zero-turn mowers where they think that they could run 25 to 50 hours, but when I see one that hasn't had any maintenance done in 100 hours. Oh, I thought you can run it. These are extended runs. I'm like, not that long.
Right.
They get beat up pretty bad.
What's Kohler's new claim to fame? How many hours? It's over 100, I think, right? That new oil they have supposedly.
Well, the oil, I mean, Briggs and Stratton's doing it too. Like, some of the cheap mowers.
The no oil. Well, there's a lot of lawnmowers out there that are no oil change, but that's just from the choice of the customer.
Well, it's because they use oil. You got to keep putting more in, so they figured.
They intentionally make them to burn oil, and even if they make it, what causes oil to break down quicker is heat. Yep. If you make the engine run cooler, then you can, you don't have to change the oil as often, but. Rule of thumb has always been 25 hours, even at the very most 50 hours, but only if you have a full pressure lubrication with a spin-on oil filter, because that filter is actively getting oil pumped through it, where it's getting removing a lot of those particulates. But anything beyond that, you're just asking for trouble. Sooner or later, something's going to break.
Well, even my truck, it's 24 years old, and I change the oil every 5,000 clicks, which is 3,000 miles. Some people give me a rough time about that, but my truck's 24 years old, and it runs like a champ. So 3,000, I do it 3,000 miles.
William is actually asking what flashing is. So, I mean, you guys can answer that.
You bet. When sometimes your generator won't start because it's not generating enough magnetism to start the whole thing to fire up. So you take a drill and you plug it into the outlet, the 110 outlet, and some guys say you have to put the drill in reverse or forward. I've never seen anything different about that. Yeah, and you spin you squeeze the trigger on the drill, and you squeeze the end. You squeeze the end of the drill, and it just generates an exciting current back into the control panel, and those magnets just pick up and go alive, and you start generating electricity, and it actually works. I can't believe it. The first time I tried it, years and years and years ago,
how many times you take
I
the
was
drill, you go like that, and
stunned.
it starts on you, it scares the hell out of you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the drill takes off, right? Because it's plugged into the source.
I've actually used a
So
die
use
grinder.
I use a smaller drill that I'm stronger than the drill.
I take a die grinder and I run the wheel on the driveway, and it's
That's another good way to do it too.
Yeah.
I usually do a 9-volt battery with a large 1-watt resistor.
Yeah, what is the...
I've tried that, and I haven't had much luck with that.
Is there a minimum voltage to excite it though in those magnets?
Usually above at least 6 volts before if it's a brush type. If anything above 6 volts, otherwise it won't turn on. Some of the older ones would turn on at like 3 volts, but Briggs and Stratton, at least from my experience, what I've seen is has to be at least 8 volts.
Right. Knowing that, let me ask this question. I was on a guy brought a Generac down to one of the people down in like Norwalk, Connecticut, real expensive place.
Real low, ritzy area.
Yeah, no, it's a real expensive hardware store that sells the generators. But anyway, they charged him like $300 and didn't fix it. Still didn't generate. So he brought it up to me. Okay, and at first I thought maybe the AVR or automatic voltage. No. So I said, just for the hell of it, I had an old, 12 volt, like a motorcycle battery. It was kind of dead, but it still had voltage in it. And I just took the 2 leads, and while it was running, you could hear, real quick.
You can hear quick.
And,
right.
First it scared the hell out of me because I said, oh, Christ, I just destroyed it. But then, boom, it generated and it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my question was, if people, you see on different videos, people say, oh, just take, 12 volt battery, 2 wires, dink real quick. But is 12 volts in a good battery going to destroy something if you try and flash with it?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
So these regulator boards,
yep.
This is one from a Generac, the 7000, but there's a whole bunch. I don't know how well you can see it. I've taken this out of the potting. Mm-hmm. So these the white wire is your positive brush, and this is your negative, and then you have your DPE or your exciter winding right here that goes, and at full load, you'll probably see at most 24 volts DC on these wires, and you'll see anywhere from 120 to 180 volts AC on your DPE windings. Mm-hmm. A quick blip of 12 volts, you got to be very careful because this diode here, or this, most of these AVRs have this transistor on the heatsink here. Mm-hmm. A quick blip could actually blow them out.
Oh wow!
So when I flash, I err on the side of caution. I take off the...
Well, you said anything over 6.8, something like that, 6 or 8?
Yeah, it'll turn on, but the problem becomes is that if there's something going on here, like they have components here to prevent it from, this component here will start to conduct and short the leads together if it goes over a certain voltage.
Okay.
But typically these things are kind of sensitive. You put 12 volts, when it's not making its own 12 volts, you're pushing it back into the board there, you could potentially blow it out. So what I usually do if I wanted to flash it that way, just take off the brush leads, connect the 12 volts directly to the brush leads, run it for, a second, and that way it'll build up enough residual magnetism, and then it should be okay.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Question though, for those that aren't in the note, was it DPE? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
What is that?
So it stands for displaced phase excitation. So you have.
I saw that the other day.
Well, I was saying, even if he tells me, I'm not going to know. So it doesn't.
So it's your exciter winding base. So you have your windings in your stator, or the donut-shaped portion of it, and then you have the rotor that spins.
Yeah.
So you think of your main windings like this. Displaced means that those exciter windings are 90 degrees offset from the main windings. That's why they call it displaced. Mm-hmm. So think of an AC waveform. As the exciter winding is charging up, it's providing power to the regulator, and it's dumping that into the main windings. So that's why you want it makes it run more efficiently, is from what I was.
Yeah, Jim uses it a lot in his conversations, and then I'm sort of like, okay.
Yeah, he does.
Exciter winding.
I had to go look it up.
All right, now,
he's a pretty smart guy. Oh, by the way, my generator is a Coleman. It's just got John Deere paint on it.
Pramac. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's good. It's good. It's a good old machine, man. It's just hard to start because you've got the parasitic load on that thing is just ridiculous. And now I'm in my 60s. I prime it.
I'm asking if you should install a battery string with your ATS for smooth transfer.
I'm not sure.
No, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean,
battery string.
Yeah, but what are you talking about, Ed? Something where that takes the juice first, so you don't get a surge or something? I mean, I don't understand what you're trying to say.
When you're talking about that, Ed, I'm thinking about the minus 50 volt strings we had at work.
Like a surge protection or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, is he referring to an uninterruptible power supply?
Yeah,
like a battery backup to something like your computer or something like that?
I think so.
I think that's right. What he's talking about. Yeah, I mean, I have that on my entertainment system downstairs, and I have one here on my computer setup, and yeah, it does help, and they are very quickly to react to go from utility to line power, and they're really just designed to give you a couple minutes to properly shut.
Isn't that just a bunch of capacitors, though? What is that?
I mean, no, there's
batteries,
steel lead acid batteries, and there's usually two of them in the bigger ones. It's about the size.
I mean, we use them at work, for the computers and all that. But I thought, like for surges and stuff like that, isn't it just capacitors taking the charge?
No, they have it's these kinds of components. They're called MOVs or metal oxide varistors. They have no resistance at a certain voltage, but at a certain curve, when the voltage gets too high, it starts conducting and clamps down on that spike, so that it'll sacrifice itself before it'll sacrifice your sensitive gear.
Right.
So they'll start popping. Right.
Yep, that's what it is. You find in any kind of
protector, any kind of protection. Yeah.
That's very basic passive
high voltage, low voltage protection, depending on what you're talking about, right?
Yep. Yeah, they even have active ones where you can actually get it looks like a breaker where it's actively monitoring a voltage through a microcontroller, and you can set the low and the high limits, and if it goes over those limits, it'll pop the breaker so you stop the voltage from flowing.
Actually, Wayne, take some old engine oil and get the pH test kit from your pool water, and you can do a couple tests.
Yeah, why not?
I mean, that'll test it, right? It'll test the pH.
If you're going to run it on propane, yeah. I mean, Q over at U.S. Carburation has done some of these videos before, but I don't think they do too much on their YouTube channel. But I would be curious myself to see what's the acidity, after 25 hours on gasoline and 25 hours on propane or natural gas, and use the same brand of oil and see what I'd be curious to see.
Luke really changes his oil. Shame on you, Luke. Let's see what else.
I'm an oil changer.
Yeah, me too.
I have a big yard, but I just do the lawnmowers once a year. Because we only have a 6-month season, and I don't usually takes me, an hour a week.
Yeah, the newer Briggs engines definitely use oil.
Customers are getting lazier, and it keeps us guys in business. Keeps the lights going.
Well, like I said, these guys were asking me too about the stream, so I'm glad everybody's here. Hopefully, when James gets back in his swing of things after the holidays, we'll do it again with James because
I'll be gone.
How are you? Yeah, you'll be in Mexico. That's right. Yeah. How are we doing on time, guys? What's your schedule? I don't want to keep you too long. We're on an hour now.
No, it's the day after Christmas, so it's you just graze. You go into the kitchen and grab a turkey bun and come back out.
I had a Mexican cheeseburger.
Whoa!
Don't want to keep you.
No, I got a couple minutes here. Yeah, no, it'd be good to talk with James. I'm working on a Generac Megaforce 6500 watt. I was hoping to get the video up before Christmas, but parts are still waiting on, and he actually he helped me out. He sent over a muffler because the muffler that I have was pretty much corroded, gone. And he sent me over one that fit and got that all squared away.
Right on.
So now I'm just, I have a little small carburetor issue. It started leaking gas after I cleaned it, so I probably missed something. But the generator head and the panel is all fixed, and it needed valve work. The construction site generators see a hard.
Yeah, just like the tile.
I actually have stopped working for contractors because they bring it. They're good at bringing it, and then they stand on the edge of the garage apron with their tongues hanging out, waiting for you to get it running again because they got 4 guys without power somewhere. And so what I've started doing, which is really dumb, is I'm giving them my generator so he can just take it.
Ooh.
He can just take it.
You're a brave man, Bruce.
Well,
You're
you
a
know
very
what?
brave man. This machine only has
I
71.
know, but I just had to get him off my back because he was all over me, man. He was like, "Are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are you done yet?" I'm going like, I can't even think.
There you go. Hey, what are your guys' thoughts on if someone put like a house up for their generator? I mean, I know you have to think about air intake, and most people do it because of noise, but what about air intake and all that?
If it's done properly,
Yeah.
yes.
Out of the weather with what do you call it? Airflow.
Well, I've seen people do two things. I've seen people build a doghouse and they have like a cold air intake, so it'll get cold air. But then I see them using car mufflers, like 3-foot long car mufflers, and then remember the old water mufflers where you put it into the ground.
Yep.
I've seen people do that as well, because they don't want any noise out of it, So
well, I did one for a guy. He put it in. He just puts it on a little shed beside his cabin that has no power, and I just used a 1.5-inch flexible muffler hose that you might, and it did nothing. It did nothing for the noise of the generator because it's all valve clatter and
any open frame generator. To me, that's a waste of time.
It was a waste of time, and he ended up taking it off.
Yeah, if you really, what's important if you're gonna the doghouse sheds, they work. It does cut down on noise. You got to worry about heat. You got to worry about getting fresh air in there, and also getting the hot air out.
Carbon monoxide, yeah.
Well, it's even if you route the exhaust outside of that dog shed, the heat from the engine is still going to build up. So you need to keep the fresh air coming in, and then air coming out from an exhaust. But the larger car mufflers really doesn't add any benefit. If anything, it changes the tuning on the engine, and you can actually wind up causing it to run worse than what it was designed for.
Yeah, Wayne's saying it's kind of tough when it's 27 below, huh, Bruce?
Well, and I just did the sidewalks before I came in here, and it's crazy. We're getting like a quarter or a half an inch of snow a day, so it has to be done. But it's just a pain in the neck. Like it's not adding up. It's just it just has to be done. So
all right.
Anyway, I'm really hoping we get away here 2 weeks today.
Ooh, are you definitely? It's definite now, Bruce, or what?
Well, everything's we're looking good. The government is when they get on there, they're still talking about assisting the service industry. They're not talking about travel bans yet. So and I don't think it's any different flying from Toronto to Calgary as it is from Puerto Vallarta to Calgary now. I don't, like the world is one. So anyway, I'll probably get razzed for going.
Wayne's comment, Bruce, if you guys have a pool, what do you use it 1 month out of the year?
We don't have pools here. I don't think there's a pool in my neighborhood.
It's expensive to have a pool. I had one when I was a kid.
But I mean, like where you are, Bruce, pool weather is what, 3 days out of the year? I mean,
well, we have nice summers, right?
Yeah,
but it's the amount of work for the 3.5 months you might use your pool.
Yeah. Shutting down a generator with a load on it can damage the magnet. Oh yeah.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, you got to clear it off.
In fact, I worked on it was a Generac or Champion the other day. A big sticker on it: "Do not start or stop
with load."
With a load. And
Nope. Yeah. That's probably between that or letting it run out of gas with the load on it. Oof.
Ooh. Let me ask you though too. Someone was saying too when it dies, like you said, with gas with a slight load on it, can it suck the induced magnetism out of it so that it won't generate at all, or
yes.
Sorry, okay.
Because it'll go into the windings of whatever you're powering or whatever, right?
Okay.
When you have the collapsing magnetic field in that rotor that's spinning, it's got to go somewhere because the rotor is being powered by the magnetism that's built up in the stator winding, your main windings, and your exciter winding. As that AVR, what kills it is the AVR. This AVR is trying like hell to keep it within a certain voltage range. And if this is going to peg at full power as the engine's slowing down, and that's what causes these things to overheat and burn up.
So where'd you go to school?
I went to school. I went to school here in New Haven, Connecticut. But I didn't go to school for this stuff.
Is that right? Okay.
I went to school for advertising and graphic.
UNH?
What?
UNH?
Nope. No, Southern.
Oh, my daughter graduated Southern as a teacher. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
But I graduated in 2008, and advertising and graphic design was my major. But as soon as I got
you became an electrical guru.
We're feeling kind of old right now. I graduated. Well, initially, if I finished it, I would have graduated college in '85, but
that's when I was born.
No. I graduated from SAIT in 1976, which SAIT is like Southern Alberta Institute of Technology. It's kind of, it's kind of hooked up to the MIT guys, and we have a Northern Alberta one too, and it was fantastic. And you know what? Really, in the 45 years since I went there, it hasn't changed. Like we worked on computers with hard drives that might have been 64K hard drives. And then right, and everything just got packed in, and more stuff in a smaller box, and it just really nothing has changed. I mean, a diode is a diode, a PC board is a board. Now as far as getting into small engines, I'm just self-taught because
same here.
I'm cheap, and I refuse to give somebody $100 an hour to wreck what I can wreck myself.
I said my story was I was working on something out in the driveway. My wife had gotten laid off from GE, and I'm sitting out in the driveway working on something. We got we have a brand new newborn at the time, and another one who was 6 years old. And I'm saying, oh, now what do I do? And I'm working out in the driveway, and someone looked at me and he goes, oh, do you fix stuff? And I'm like, well, I guess I can. So he started dropping off stuff, and the rest is history. Garage or driveway repair. So.
Yeah, I've always fixed my own stuff, but I never really started doing it properly until about 14 or 15 years ago, where you actually, like I could haywire something.
I never had any power equipment growing up. My father had a half acre of land with a 20-inch push mower with the wind-up crank that busted your knuckles every time you let go.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's what we did. So. And
I ended up fixing a rotor tiller for a nice young couple. They heard about me through a friend or something, and I sent them a video I sent them a 5-second video. That's all I could fit into the email, and of the piston not going up and down, but the outside going around. And I thought, it might be like YouTube, and
Sandy on that. I mean, not a generic question, but you battery operated chainsaws. You still got to oil a chain though. There's still an oil tank on it. You still have to oil it, or else you'll burn it out. There should be an oil tank on it, Sandy. Look in the manual. There definitely should be an oil tank.
I have one of those little electric ones. I
like the Makitas with the dual battery. It actually works pretty good.
I got an AC one. It's fantastic. If I just need to zip off something, I plug it in, use it, put it away.
You got one of those plug-in pull saws, and take it down a limb or two. And I got one. I got one of those Cobalt 8-inch electric ones for chopping off limbs. Got it for free. Works great.
Right. I hate to say it because I love the engine ones too, but
I think that's where a lot of the industry is going. I mean, small engine,
I think for residential, small engine is going to go full electric in the next 10 years. But I think commercially, it's going to be a toss-up to see, when somebody's on a machine all day long, man. I don't know.
We got Nikki in Ireland. It's after 1 o'clock in the morning, so I think we should answer them.
Sure.
Can Gary explain how a 2-stroke flywheel generates spark, and at what point the coil picks up the pulse in relation to the magnets?
Right away.
Well,
you know what? There's actually no difference between a 2-stroke flywheel and a 4-stroke flywheel, except on a 4-stroke, every second stroke is a waste spark.
Spark. Yep. Yeah, wasted on the exhaust stroke. Yeah, I mean, if your coil's here and it's coming up, as soon as it induces that voltage, I mean, as it starts entering it, you're actually starting to create the voltage. And then once it leaves, then the voltage will come back down. It induces it into a primary coil, and then transfers it to a secondary coil, which is a much higher resistance, which steps up the voltage to about 20,000 volts.
Yeah, it's a step-up. All it is a step-up transformer. And the modern ones without points have the electronics inside, or like the little module you can buy.
A lot of people don't realize is how the field collapses. Like the old point system when it goes to ground and all that. And now with electronic, it's all transistorized. So
on and off much quicker, a lot more efficient.
And you can actually see the spark advance on them. Like they're just off a little tiny bit compared to top dead center on the piston, right? You can just see, there might be
a few.
You can just see a little tiny bit of advance on that.
But it's all magnetism, Nikki. Just magnetism into a coil and
collapsing loops, hysteresis loops, and all kinds of weird stuff like that.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, I hate to say it, you know.
Nice hysteresis on my graphing calculator. I remember that.
Yeah, that's right.
See, in the machine tool business, hysteresis is lost motion.
Lost motion. Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Or energy wattage that's not doing anything. It's not doing any actual work.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was the toughest part of my SAT was the calculus at the end, the last 3 months, and you had to pass calculus or you didn't you didn't graduate, right? And I'm sure they just gave me a D so I could get out of there.
No, ironically, when I was going to school, I ended up finishing up college later in my life. I started out doing mechanical engineering at Norwalk Tech in Norwalk, Connecticut, got an associate degree in mechanical engineering. And then I started doing a course at a time, but then, life gets in the way, the house, the kids, to this, to that. Yep. And then at age 45, I started Sikorsky Aircraft. And I said, you know what? UTC they owned us at the time. And they're like, oh, you're paying for college? So boom, I went back for 7 years straight and got a bachelor's in management with a minor in quantitative analysis. God knows why I did that.
Let me think about that.
And then quantitative. I took 5 extra courses in quantitative analysis, which was like upper level calculus and differentials and all that stuff. I'm never going to use that in my life, but it looks good on a degree.
No,
right?
But when you have to push your brain to learn it, then your brain has been pushed and you've got more capacity. You've got more capacity, man.
We got bought by Lockheed. So by the time I was getting done with everything, I had to fork out the money. So it's there's extra 5 courses. That's like $12,000. So
Not cheap.
For what, another line on the diploma? And then I went back at age 50 and got my MBA. So, but hey, great for small engines, right?
It's every guy needs a hobby, It's
well, I figured, not having the bachelor's for years kept my salary low. They would always use everything under the sun to keep my salary low. So when I decided to go work third shift to get into Sikorsky, where I am now, I said, screw it. I'm working third shift. I went to school during the days and nights. And I just said, this way now I'm marketable. I could do whatever. I wanted to be able in my 50s to be marketable so I could do whatever the heck I wanted.
Right.
Yeah. Connecticut used to be an experience-based state. A lot less. I mean, you don't necessarily, and Mike Rowe has,
look at where I'm from, Bridgeport. The Bridgeport area. It was the manufacturing capital, basically, of the country. Yeah. It was. And you went. When my father got out of Korean War, he said, wherever you lived, that's where you worked. So if you lived on this street, you worked at Harvey Hubble. You worked at this street, you worked at Bullard Machine. You worked at this street, you worked at Bridgeport Machine. It's where you lived was where you worked.
Cool.
So everyone either took a bus 2 blocks to work or you walked. But nowadays people are commuting 2-3 hours to go to work. It's crazy.
Yeah, I know it is.
Well, what the world is, the world has changed, and that's
Ed,
a lot of people don't realize. It's kind of sad, because I know, Connecticut used to be more of an experience-based, state where you can, you put your credentials on your resume. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you don't have that bachelor's degree, that you don't have to go. In my opinion, I went to school for 4 years, or almost 5 years, for a degree that I don't use.
Yeah.
That's pretty common.
It's very common these days. And
my niece is now just finishing up heavy duty mechanics. She's got one more run at the 8-week school thing.
Be able to work with
and she's got a degree in psychology that didn't do her any good at all.
I had a joint stream. I don't know if you guys caught it. You probably did. I had John, who is Spoonworks, and I had Bob Double Wide 6, who are both industrial arts teachers. And he said, we had a live stream one day for a few hours talking about the trades and how the kids nowadays want to get out of school, even high school, make $100,000 and sit behind a desk. And
you know what?
That's not life.
Okay, I got to interject. Ed, the old tech guy, he's an old telephone man too. Mm-hmm. Well, we call ourselves telephone men, but it's really electronic switching, right? Mm-hmm. And I never made that much money on I never made very good money on my job, but it was a good job for 33 years, right? And it had the umbrella. Your kids could get teeth fixed, and if you got sick, you had the long-term disabilities and all that stuff. Yeah. But I never made more than $30 an hour ever. And
that's good though.
But phone companies that's Canada though, so that's like.
No, my father was the same. My father was a lineman. He was up on the poles.
It's the same
7 days
idea.
a week.
And those big companies have very, very sharp pencils, man.
I'll never forget 1985 Hurricane Gloria.
Gloria.
My father was gone the year you were born.
That was the year I was born. I remember.
Maybe that's why.
My father was gone for 3 months. 3 months. They would live 12 hours on, 12 hours off. They would sleep in firehouses.
Yeah.
Right.
For 3 months, he took care of power. Not even in Connecticut. He went to Massachusetts and up north because they needed linemen up there. We literally didn't see him from like September to almost Christmas. You know, I mean, it was a great money year. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, really? But
it's also during the Reagan years too.
Well, yeah, oh yeah, where money was no object. But the thing is, he made good money and all, but it was like every time there was a snowstorm, an ice storm, a rainstorm, 2 in the morning, the phone ring, Hank, come on, we need
Mom
you.
became an lineman widow for a couple months.
I'm telling you.
Yep. I mean, my father was a tool and die maker, and he worked in Stratford, Connecticut. I mean,
where do you work? I got
it was Textron, light combing for a while. AFCO. Yeah, then they moved out to Arizona. He was part of local.
Yep. Oh, yeah. I gotta talk to you offline. I probably know who he is.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
I had a ton of friends over there.
I'm sure, but like to my point before, I mean the trades are. There's a lot that the trades are put down unnecessarily, needlessly. I mean, if I had to do it over again, I would definitely have gone into either becoming an electrician, HVAC, probably an electrician, because I have seem to have an affinity for.
But did you just get an affinity like in the last few years, Gear? Or how did that actually come about? Was it because of amplifiers for guitars, or what really?
No, that's just been my.
Yeah, I thought that you would have been playing with pickups and stuff, and that's how you would have started.
I've only been playing bass since 2002, 2001, but the whole tinkering thing has been since I was a little kid. I mean. I just remember years with with my father and my grandfather were just out in the garage doing something, and working with your hands, doing a wood project, doing an electrical project. He had lathes, he had drill presses, he had a full shop at this house, and you get exposed to that, and you're either going to be interested in it or you're not. I'm the oldest of three, and that's just what we used to do. But as time goes on, you kind of you got to have that passion to be able to look at something and say, okay, let me try to figure it out. I may screw it up a couple times, but I figure out how not to do it, and then I know how to do it for myself, and you become more self-sufficient. I wish the younger generation would have more of that passion, because
my father never turned a wrench in his life. He worked too much. He worked 7 days a week. Being a lineman. And it was funny, the first time I changed the water pump on his 73 Chevy station wagon, he's like, how do you know that? It's like, what do you mean, Dad? It's 4 bolts, coolant. What is it? And he was like, he was like amazed, and I was like, I've been the type ever since I was 5 years old. I'm the one who took the toaster apart, and hopefully it made toast after.
I'll have to talk to you more offline. I mean, like you said,
I just repaired my metal detector. I'm taking it down to Mexico, and it's the pinpointer, and it wasn't loud enough. So I thought, well, it's 2 years old. I'm like, I can't take it back. It's 2 years old. So I tore it apart, had turned on the camera on the bench, took it apart. Well, the little buzzer speaker was jammed in there so that it wasn't vibrating freely. So and I broke one of the power leads and had to solder it onto the circuit board. And then I just took a little tiny screw and I attached it to the circuit board so it was kind of floating. The little vibrating buzzer was floating. Worked great. So I filmed it. It's up. It's going to be up in a few days. Craziness, right? But I was that kid that took the alarm clock apart, or
When I got older, though, I had to know how everything in the world worked. I mean, like drywall in a house, the magic substance. What makes a wall? Well, I put my fist through it, and I figured out what it was.
Right? Not much there.
Not much there. All right, JP. He's the one with the 6,500 watt generator. He says brushless generator, popping caps, hook capacitor leads to the meter, and started engine. Getting 11.3 volts. Was told it should be no more than 19 volt max.
Something primary.
Yeah, it might. If it's popping capacitors, if he's measuring 19 volts AC or 11.3 volts AC.
Yeah, it's got to be AC though, right?
It's got to be AC going into it, because then the rotating rectifier assembly is going to rectify it. But if it's blowing it out, is he using the correct capacitor?
As far as what, the microfarad rating or
the microfarad
voltage rating on the capacitor.
And then also it could be the spikes too. The MOVs, the MOVs, the metal oxide varistors. One of those could have popped on the rotor. If it's not clamping down on those spikes, then it could be popping the capacitor.
What's the general rule you guys say about on the capacitors? Higher voltage is okay; it's allowed. Okay.
Yes, the higher voltage rating means that the higher the voltage is better. You want to get the microfarad rating correct because that's what the generator.
That's what regulates it, right? That's what regulates.
Yeah, it's a self-regulating design, meaning that the capacitors, the microfarad rating at a given speed, so many windings and with enough capacitance is going to give you that the correct output voltage.
Okay, hope that helped, JP. Here's Ed again. Went from telephone man to network engineer.
Oh yeah, right. He said that, right? Yeah, and his pay went up. Good for you. I stayed in the field.
I tell you one thing, though. I've been salary my whole life, and I wish I got overtime over the past 40 years.
Yeah. Well, my last 2 years, they downsized and downsized and downsized and downsized, and finally I was the last switchman. Ed would understand this. Out of like 20 people, but they changed it. They had an excellence center, so they would phone you. The excellence center would phone you and say, "Oh, over in Rimby, we got a card failure. It's running on the other side. We got redundancy." And 2:00 in the morning, I'd drive out to Rimby and change the card and reset it and get on my laptop and go. But I was the only guy there for a city of 100,000 people. Wow. I was busy, and it really did. I retired a year and a half early, but that extra work evened out my pension, so it was back up where it should have been.
But Bruce, let me ask you: have you found, though, in that business, communications and all that, have the technicians turned into parts changers and not technicians?
Mostly.
Okay, that's what kills me, especially like appliance repair and stuff like that. There's no more technicians anymore. It's change the board, But
the guys that are good, they put in that alarm center, right?
Yeah.
And then, they got propeller heads, right? Mm-hmm. And then the guys in the field. No, I hope nobody's watching.
Nobody watches us.
But the guys in the field don't have the level. They don't have the exposure. Like it's no one's fault, right? Yeah, it was crazy.
So Ross is asking about an EU7000 inverter, which is I'd love to have one of those. I can't afford it.
Yeah.
I mean, inverters. I mean, if you got computer equipment, sophisticated electronics, stuff like that. I mean, inverter with a nice clean wave and all. Hey, I love them.
Clean wave, EMI filtering, an electronic stepper motor to adjust the carburetor under different loads. I mean those. It's kind of subjective to say, is it worth the high price? I mean, I get there's a lot of engineering involved, but you get what you pay for. Those are. I mean, they use them in the movie industry, and many industries, but there's a lot on the smokestack where there's guys that have been able to parallel 7,000 watts together, and they're running all the HMI lights, which simulate the sunlight, the color of the sun. When they're doing a scene, so those take a lot of power. Wow. These things, you need that. It's worth having for sure. Wow. The inverter technology is definitely getting better. The problem is like you can't repair them. That one board, that inverter board is extremely expensive.
James was saying they're like almost $2,000 for some of those boards.
Yeah, about $1,500. There's a Yamaha 3000 ISE that I was thinking of getting, but the guy wanted too much money for it. It didn't make power, but the engine ran fine. And I says, well, let me do some research. And when I saw how much the cost of the board was, I'm like, it ain't worth it. As terrible as it is. And also Yamaha likes to do a lot of different revisions where you look at the model year, you look at the schematic, and you see that the part is different. It's got different connectors. He actually, I think James ran into that issue not too long ago because him and I, we were chatting about that. It's
gone proprietary, eh?
It's gone, well, the design schematic has gone proprietary. It's the components are all pretty standard. You go to mouse.com or DigiKey, and you can easily get these parts, even surface mount. But the problem becomes, do you have the schematic to service it to see what the circuit is doing? And a lot of times when you're repairing these boards, it's not just one component that fails; it's a cascade effect, and you got to see what the circuit's actually doing in order to properly repair it.
Yeah.
It's just no one's going to do that for the time and the money that you're going to spend a technician to do that. You're going to spend going to do just swap the part out. It's terrible. I think that it's kind of a lost art.
Well, that's the way the phone business is now. Everything's, you isolate it, you yank it, and you stick in a new one and
Terrible.
Reseat it and hope like hell it's going to go and send the other one to the repair shop.
That is the hope.
Ed's asking about the right to repair. That's more for like the larger agricultural equipment. I really haven't seen it a lot in the small engine world.
No, I mean,
not yet.
In the state of Connecticut, there's what's called E1 certification, and this more applies to standby generators that are connected to houses and whatnot. There's really no formal, when it comes to fixing portable generators, there's no certification or anything like that for it. But when it comes to commercial standby generators that are connected to houses, yeah, you do have to be a licensed electrician to work on them. Even if it is the gasoline engine, you subcontract out to have that person work on the gasoline engine or portion of it. It's too much. It's liability more than anything.
Oh yeah, definitely. The house
business insurance is costly enough.
Oh, John's saying it's a very detailed operation to parallel a couple generators together.
You don't want to slip a pole.
Ooh.
Yeah, well, the right to repair, I believe, should be there, but I don't know if if this modern stuff can even be designed to have that right to repair. Because like you say, it's so sophisticated inside the piece. Not, it's an edged connector maybe or whatever, but that piece is. You're not going to get in there with a soldering iron and change a motherboard.
No, I mean, in having that kind of time too, to sit there and try to figure it out. I mean, at this point, some of these things are so beyond repairable by the user that it's become so complex that it's not even, like I said, it's not worth the time. And in the engineering world, I was always told. I have a couple friends that are engineers, and they're always like, if you don't want it to fail, don't design it with it.
That's true.
Designed to fail.
All right, guys, we're at an hour.
I'm getting hungry, actually.
I think we got some good time in.
Yeah, no, we can wrap it up, but I just definitely want to say thanks to you guys.
Yeah.
I think even without Mr. Condon, we did pretty good.
Yeah. Would have been fun to have him along.
Yeah.
No, next time. I got a hold of him. Like I said, I know you've been talking to him, both you guys, but
traveling, yeah.
Yeah, when he gets settled after the holiday, we'll do it again. This is the fourth one that I've done.
Yeah.
And hosting you guys, and it's fun. We have a good time, and hopefully we've answered questions for everybody.
I don't know if I qualify as a generator expert, but I just fixed what's in front of me.
That's a good way,
right?
To
I don't have any problem taking something apart. Like absolutely no fear.
But generators used to scare me, Bruce, until I met Jim.
Yeah,
they scared me. I would never work on them. I mean, the engine, of course, I'll get it running. Right. But and it's stupid because the first one I worked on, all it was a capacitor, and I'm like, really? But then I got a Generac that was it was AVR a little bit more, a little more into it. But you watch some of Jim. I actually binge watched Jim's videos one weekend. I literally watched 50, 60 of his videos, and I'm saying, you know what? Damn it, I could do some of this stuff.
Yeah, and he's worked himself into a real niche there, eh?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
beautiful, really nice.
Subscribers is very impressive.
Ed, stop it, Ed. I appreciate it, but you don't have to. But thank you, Ed.
You're a retired phone guy. You don't have the money to do that.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Anyway, but I just want to thank you guys, both Gary and Bruce. Thank you so much. Everyone out in the chat, I think we got some questions answered. We had a few questions.
We missed one. We missed the one about the white
I think that
wood
was a troll.
thing.
That was a troll. I think it was a troll.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Dick and John Clem got them. They were some kind of
okay, thanks, John.
Yeah.
That one I was.
I know these guys were having a little bit of a banter session in the chat, so I let them just go on with that, and I said we could talk generators and all that stuff. But Gary, if you want to say again your business, what you do, your channel, want to give a little wrap up for you?
Sure. Yeah. So my home business that I have with my wife Susan is S&G small engine repair. She also does some pet services, drop-ins and whatnot. But I've been my channel specifically, the Bass Guitarist one, is just my own personal channel that I do a lot of my own projects on. And but it also has small engine too, so there's a little bit of that. There's circuit board repair, even changing out a simple 3-speed light switch or a fan switch in a ceiling fan.
Right.
Seems
I did. One of my first videos was a tri-light repair.
Yeah, you get a couple of those. I'm a home brewer for about 13, almost 14 years now. Built a 16 draft keezer down in the basement, and built that from scratch from watching YouTube videos. And
my father-in-law did tap soda for years. We did carbonators and all that kind of stuff, and we used to hook up bars. I'm going back to like the late 80s and 90s when I was dating my wife. Well, actually, I was dating my wife since the 80s, but anyway, I'm dating myself. But my father-in-law.
No, you're not.
My father-in-law worked. Yeah, I mean, I'm used to that kind of stuff, Gary, because my father-in-law. There you go. Yep.
Yeah, that's
absolutely. Cool. Yep, I'm used to that. Yep, absolutely.
So there's quite a bit. There's quite a bit on tap, but I also have a little 2-tap. What I started off with, a little 2-tap kegerator there. And
now you do your own home brew and all that.
Got a home. Yeah, I have got a whole nano brewery, electric brewery down in the basement. I have.
What's the address? No, just kidding.
That'd be a good name for a business, electric brewery.
Actually, that is the name of a business.
There you go.
They're actually a business online, but no, let's see if I can actually find a quick picture of it to give you an idea. No, I built that as well. There's a couple videos of that on my channel, but it's basically, I will do 5-gallon batches. I'll share. Use the soda kegs there. That's very popular in the home.
Yeah, my father, when I started dating, when we got engaged with my wife, he would take me on soda jobs, and we would hook up, carbonators, run all the lines and all that stuff. And he's like, "We're gonna do your basement. We're gonna do all the." We never did it, But,
okay, let's see. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so this is. You can see it in here.
Oh yeah.
You get a little bit of an idea of just got the sink plumbed in, so
nice.
You got the 12-foot bar downstairs. You got the 2 pinball machines. You got my wife actually built a diner down in the basement. So
I've got my 1951 Seaberg B.
You have a Seaberg B. I'm looking for a Seaberg myself, but my
wife. That's my second B. I had a G, a B, an H, a C, and this is my.
Oh, so you're a big Seaberg fan.
I used to be really into it. I used to do the pin banks. I did everything. I mean,
right on.
I went
right on. Okay, well, it's
all the steppers, the pin banks, the amps.
Keep an eye out. Keep an eye out for the AQ160s because I had this.
But that's the newer style. That's the
newer style, but it was the 1959, 1960. So I have a bit of a personal connection to this machine because this was what my parents had when I was a kid, and we had, they had all kinds of Halloween music in there and parties music and whatnot. But that one, I have I hope to own.
Is it the DS160?
AQ160. It was the artist of the week.
Yep,
and it had the speed, the auto speed there would play the 33 and the thirds and the 45s.
Oh, cool.
So
the B that I have, that was the first 45, 1950, 51.
51, right. And then the 59 was the last year that you can actually visibly see the mechanism going back and forth.
Yep.
So it was also stereo as well. So there's it was it's the same machine that was in the B-52's Love Shack music video. So look that up on the left-hand side as you're watching. It's the same.
My machine you will see in MASH. They have a couple episodes of MASH show my machine, but then they went from the B to the C with the yellow pilasters and all that stuff. Yeah. But I was into jukeboxes from 1984 to about 1995. I went to the Philadelphia Game Room show every year. I did all that stuff.
I've been to Allentown. I did the pinball machine. They do the pinball festival out there a couple years ago.
If you ever find my favorite 1970 Gottlieb home run, that's my favorite, and I've wanted one of those since they had it in Woolworths in the Trumbull Mall. I've always wanted one.
Woolworths. Oh man,
that was my first job. I worked there as a dishwasher. That was my first job. 1979, when I turned 16, I was a dishwasher in the cafeteria at Woolworths in Trumbull. And downstairs they had a Gottlieb home run, 1970, and it was my favorite. I could clip that machine. I could clip it every time. I knew how to do it.
So I have a Bally wide body. It's called Embryon. It's one of 5 games it's a very wide body, weighs metric ton. Again, I had it as a kid, but then I bought it back in 2012, all the way up in northern Maine, 6 hours from here. And long story short, it brought it back. It was in pretty decent cosmetic shape, but I rebuilt everything, rebuilt all 7 boards. But I sent out the play field. And there's a couple of videos on my channel for that, where I had a former Bally artist that used to work for him restore the artwork and put a nice clear lacquer finish to protect it. Nice. And it took me a better part of 4.5 months to take it apart, put it back together, but that is fully restored. And then my other machine is it's another rarity. Only about 2,200 were made as an X's and O's or a tic-tac-toe. It's just your run-of-the-mill, straight up pinball playing. And those are the 2 main attractions downstairs besides the diner.
Right.
Sue's Diner.
Yeah, we did jukeboxes, we did slot machines, we did soda machines, we did it for a while, and just put it this way: the wife came, the house came, the kids came, and all I got left is my 51 Seaberg that needs everything.
Don't get rid of it. And
but the first one I had, I actually sold it in 1988 to take my wife to California on vacation when we started dating for real, and I could have killed myself. And in fact, I have a bunch of 3W1 wall boxes. The old 3W1.
Nice. All right.
They actually work. I have the 2050 tube to make them work. I have all that. I mean, I was into it. I mean, I was really. I'm not an electronic guy per se, but when it came to jukeboxes, the steppers and the pin banks and all that, I mean, I knew it. I mean, I was.
There's a guy in Hamden that still does it. His son just took it over. Known him for many years, but. Like I said, when I get to that point where I can be at the opportunity to own it, I'd like to own it. But certainly chat with the wife on that. She likes the look of the Wurlitzers, like the bubbling ones.
Of course.
Well, the 1015 with the bubble tubes and all that stuff. Yeah, those are nice. But a 1015 restored now is $11,000.
That's a half a year's worth of money.
You should buy her a One More Time. They did the One More Time model in the 80s, which is an electronic version, but it still has the bubble tubes and all that stuff. And it plays CDs instead of 33s.
No, certainly the 33s and the 45s. I mean, it's also, I hope that, whatever, jukebox that if we ever get one here, I would like to be able to connect a Bluetooth receiver to it. So, because we got a nice tabletop one she got for Christmas last year for me. Or no, it was her father that it got for us, and it's in the diner. So it's a nice, it's got the neon glow and everything like that. But it's
now, did you ever subscribe to Always Jukin'?
Not yet.
It's in
hard to juggle all these different.
Well, but all I'm saying is, if you're looking for that jukebox, okay, there's a guy up in Massachusetts who he's a jukebox warehouse. I forget the guy's name. I've been there a dozen times.
I talked to him. Actually, he reached out to me.
Yeah, he's right next to Orange, Mass, right over there.
Let's see.
John. His name is John, I believe.
I believe you're right. Yeah.
Well, you know what? You could have been a telephone man, you guys, because of all those relays and all of those.
Oh my God! Are you kidding me?
Locking circuits, a relay locking through its own contacts, and that's how I started. Was in the step by step when you dialed a 0, it would go up, check 10 times, and it was
Mark
all.
Medved. That's his name.
It was like
he's an orange, but anyway.
I should probably go
because I got a bunch of contacts. I may be able to find your 160.
And when as soon as I get to take care of other, like you said, I'm in the same boat as you. Priorities, house, and family and all that stuff.
I'm at the point now.
When were you born?
85.
Oh wow! You know what? My daughter turned 42 today.
Oh, happy birthday!
She was born in 79.
Ah.
So I'm old enough to be your dad, man.
I was a junior in high school. Yeah. I'm old enough to be his dad. I was 22 when he was born.
Yeah, there you go.
We're aging. All right, guys, we've taken it too long.
It was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, it was definitely fun.
Very fun, guys. Well, let's schedule another one soon.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Thank you to Gary. Thank you to Bruce, as always.
Okay. And Klaus, if you're still hanging around, he's probably in bed now.
It is 2 a.m. there, so he's probably in bed. So, anyway, thanks, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks,
Very
guys.
Nice.
All right, let's see. End broadcast.